Residents of the Nelson Mandela Bay in the Eastern Cape did not observe social distancing regulations as they came out in their numbers to collect their social grants payments. Long queues formed from as early as 4 o'clock this morning. Most of them wore their masks, but with many scrambling to be the first in line, it was a bit impossible to adhere to social distancing. There were no authorities to monitor the queues. Our SABC News reporter Andan Nunji reports from Port Elizabeth.
It's been a very long day for residents of the Nelson Mandela Bay municipality, especially the elderly, as many of them flocked into various pay points to receive their grant, as this marks day one of the grant payout, which will take place for 4 days from today onwards. Many of these residents braved the coronavirus by going out despite the lack of safety, with many of them saying that it was impossible to adhere to the social distancing regulation, as there have been no visibility when it comes to authorities or police officials who were meant to come and monitor the queues. If you can see behind me, just to step out of the shot, is a number of people who are still queuing, hoping to receive their grants. Most of those people have been here since the early hours of this morning, that is around 4 a.m., with some of them saying that they've been standing here waiting patiently for their turn to go inside the locked gate that only opens and takes a certain number of people to ensure that inside the complex people adhere to the social distancing regulation. They say that they've been standing there, particularly the elderly, who have been complaining about things like arthritis and being hungry, and with some of them saying that they had no choice but to come out today, as they have children at home who are waiting patiently and who have been without food for some time. We have asked a couple of residents why is it that they decided to come today instead of perhaps 10 days from now, where a number of people will have, slowed down or will not be coming here. But many of them said that it was impossible. For them, it was rather a choice of either contracting or risking the chances of contracting this virus, or staying at home hungry with young children, which is something that they were not prepared to do. They say that they know how risky this has been and how risky this day is, but they had no choice but to come here and could not choose between the two. As I had mentioned, that the queue has been long for the rest of this day, since the early hours of today, with people still coming through in hopes of receiving their grant money, and hoping that today they'll be able to purchase or do some bit of shopping or groceries, even though it is pretty late. It is like this across Port Elizabeth or the Nelson Mandela Bay. But just to remind you that there has been quite a high number of people who have already been tested positive or have contracted this virus here in the Nelson Mandela Bay, with a SASA official also reported as dead or having died from this virus not so long ago. So those are just some of the issues that these residents have expressed concerns over, saying that they are afraid because it is not unlikely that they might contract this virus from standing in this queue, but they really do not know what to do, or they have no other choice. But I must also mention that despite the fact that they could not or they cannot adhere to the Social Distancing Act, but a number of them, a majority of them, seem to have kept in mind that they need to be wearing masks when they are out in public, and a number of them, seeing a lot of elderly people and some of them bringing children or kids along, are wearing their masks, which is something that is pretty progressive, as I was here just over a month back doing the same thing, with most people seeming not to adhere to any of the regulation, as much as today was a chaotic day with a lot of people going about their business. But most of people here are actually wearing masks and are saying that they will do everything in their power to try and protect themselves in an individual capacity. But right now, from myself, Andan Nunji, and colleague Bulelani Scott, it's back to you in studio.